Hi guys, welcome to day 3 of my channel. You only get one chance, right? Today was a great day. I got to go again to the rodeo. This time, not only did my mother go with me, but my husband got to go as well. And I got to see my coworkers and my boss and enjoy this amazing sweet night that the company provides for us. Usually every year that the rodeo comes, that happens anyway. It was so awesome to see some people that are, some of my coworkers that are really far away that I don't get to see very often. But it was also sad to see those coworkers. They weren't used to seeing me in a wheelchair. That was obviously a new thing for them. A lot of them didn't realize the struggles I've been going through because I've kept it pretty quiet. At first I didn't really want anybody to know because I was so ashamed that I couldn't do the job, A, that I was hired to do, or B, that I was good at. And I was ashamed to talk about the ugly side of the struggles that I was having. And then seeing those people who are amazing, I work for an amazing company, and seeing their bright and, shiny faces and all their smiles, and watching them process what I look like in a wheelchair and not being able to really walk that far or do a whole lot of stuff was really, really hard. Sadly, I did have one episode while I was at the rodeo this time. I think I was just completely and utterly overwhelmed. So luckily I had my noise canceling headphones to put on my ears, and I told my mom, and she kind of just rolled me in the corner of the suite. I had my episode and then got back to talking with everybody, because like I said, for me, time doesn't really pass. Time stands still for me, even though it's continuing for everybody else. So it was a great time. The concert was okay. They've got some noise problems, I think, this year that they haven't had in the past in the arena. But it was really more of a get-together with coworkers and to be able to see everybody because people come from really far distances. Our districts for the company that I am in are very widespread. It's not like everybody's really close together. So we did get to see people that we don't normally get to see, or we only get to see them a couple times a year and network with them only a couple times a year. So it was really great. It was really exciting. Had a lot of fun doing it. And like I said, the concert was okay. I love Zac Brown Band. I really do. And I think they're amazing. I just think that the sound wasn't, there was something off. Something was off. I just couldn't figure out what it was. So so I had a great day, a long day at the rodeo, and I got to see my supporters and my coworkers. I left off last day 2 about the second hospital that I was in. So I do want to continue with that. The second hospital I was in, I talked about the doctors actually listening to me, actually hearing me for the first time, and for the first time since I can remember, actually feeling like I was heard by them was amazing. The medications that they changed and put me on, and like I said, after they dried me out, it's almost like the sky opened up. The song I Can See Clearly Now the Rain Has Gone is I relate to songs, so excuse my awful comparisons sometimes. I relate to music. But it really was like that. It was almost like the fog, lifted, and I could clearly see what was happening to me and what was happening to my body and where I was, and really was present for the first time in a very long time. So I was incredibly grateful for that. It took a couple of days for it to feel like that, but by day 6, it did. Sadly, I was still having these episodes, and as things would get louder or situations would happen on this floor that I was on, my protective mode in my brain, part of my dissociative disorder, would kick in, and I would have an episode because of some of the things that were going on. So I am going to tell you about those things, this one instance, because I want you to understand like how much it affected me. So there was a really nice lady on the floor, and we had been talking with her. Like, I had made a couple more fast friends at this second facility that kind of hung out with me off and on throughout the days of my visit, or of my stay there. A visit. I wish it was a visit. I didn't have a choice. They had to tell me I could leave. Once you check yourself in, it's they're in charge. They get to tell you when you get to leave. You don't get to tell them when you get to leave. But at first she conversed with us. We were doing our best to have the best time we could in the situation that we were in, and watching, they had 2 TVs in this group room, and lots of tables. And so we would watch movies or TV shows together, or things like that. I love puzzles. So I had a little puzzle table, and I would do 1 puzzle a day. So the occupational therapy that was there was like, we're going to have to get you something harder, because I was doing like 500-piece puzzles in a couple of hours, because when I get hyper focused like that, I get it done, and it's fulfilling to me to get something like that done. So I don't stop till it gets done. But this woman was hanging out with us, and come around the early afternoon-ish. So we had dinner at this facility was at 4 p.m. Because of the very strict schedule that they stuck to. So dinner was at 4. So right after dinner, she started to get a little bit louder as she was talking, and she went up to the nurse's desk and started like, where are my discharge papers? I'm supposed to get out of here. So discharge papers, for those of you that don't know, are literally your ticket out of the facility. You have to get your discharge papers, and the doctor has to sign these discharge papers in order for you to get out of this facility. Once you've checked yourself in, voluntarily or involuntarily, you have to have these discharge papers in order to get out. The doctor has to agree that you can leave. So she starts getting a little bit more assertive, right? And it's a small area, so it's not like we're like yards and, feet away from each other. We're in this pretty small area. And she starts getting a little louder, and she's like, where are my discharge papers? And at first the nurses were like, oh my gosh, like, we don't have, discharge papers. Like, maybe we missed something, right? Because we all thought we had been talking with her. We didn't know why she was there. A lot of us didn't discuss why we were there, again, because mental health issues, mental health illnesses are more of that taboo subject. And so even while we were in this facility, we didn't really talk to each other about why we were there. So we had no idea why she was there, what happened to get her checked into the hospital, if she was voluntary, if she was involuntary. We had no idea. So she starts getting a little bit louder with the nurses, starts kind of yelling at the nurses, like, I want my discharge papers. Then comes kind of the realization. She starts saying, well, my family owns this hospital. They own this hospital. I can get out when I need to. Like, you need to get my discharge papers now, right now. And she was yelling and getting increasingly louder. And then she was like, well, I'm a police officer and I shouldn't be in here and da-da-da. And that's when we really realized, like, wait a second, like this story isn't adding. Like she keeps adding on things that don't quite make sense. And then she was like, I'm chief of the military. And I'm like, that really doesn't make sense. I'm really confused now. And so we realized it was part of her delusions. But by a couple minutes in, she was just pissed. She was mad. She was yelling. She was screaming. She was pounding on the bulletproof glass that the nurses were behind. And it was chaotic. As she's doing that, another patient who we kind of knew what his illness may be just by talking with him and hearing the nurses interact with him and stuff. She starts talking about inappropriate things. I will not say that on this video, but she starts yelling inappropriate things. And so he hears these inappropriate things and starts taking all of his clothes off. So he was running around without his clothes on as she's screaming. I'm like, this is way too much for me. I'm out. Like, I gotta go back to the room. But I need my medication first because I have helpful like anxiety medication that's like fast working. And so I'm like trying to get the medication as they're like trying to deal with these two. And I'm like, please just give me my medication. I don't want to continue this. I just want to go to the room. I just want to get out of here. So, the security ends up getting called and police officers end up arriving and they're trying to wrangle this gentleman that is completely nude into what we call the quiet room. The quiet room is a room you don't want to go into. It's usually because they can't get you to realize or come back to reality from whatever delusion or hallucination or whatever's going on with you. They cannot manage it appropriately so that you don't harm yourself or others. So there's this quiet room. And a lot of the time, if you get shots, that's what you get. You get a shot in the arm to calm you down, to make you go to sleep. And it all has to be documented, right? Like that's why the police are there and like every security's there. And then so they've got him in there and then now they're trying to deal with her and I'm trying to get back to my room. And so I finally make it back to my room. She's still ranting and raving out front. And finally I hear the ranting and raving stop. So I assume she went into the quiet room. Luckily they had two of them. So one was in each quiet room. And I sat on the bed in my room and I was like, that was a lot. That was a lot to take in a very short span of, this was probably only like 5, maybe 10 minutes of time and it just broke out of nowhere. It wasn't like there was like things leading up to this. It was literally just out of nowhere. She was screaming, ranting, raving, saying vulgar things. The other gentleman was taking his clothes off and the rest of us are just going, okay, like we're all gonna go back to our rooms until this situation is resolved because we don't know what to do, right? And sadly they were kind of in the way, so you had to go around what was happening in order to get to your room. It was chaotic. So when I got to the room, I sat down on bed and I was like, okay, I've got to calm myself down because I can feel myself getting worked up. The medicine that they gave me, I could feel it working, but it wasn't quite working fast enough. And I was like, I just don't feel good. So I warned a tech that was in there and I was like, hey, I'm not feeling well. And that's all I remember, guys. That's it. That's all I remember. So according to stories of what happened, they got these people into the quiet room. Everything kind of calmed down. Well, I got out of bed and started walking around out of the room, down the hallway into this group area, started walking around the group area, but I wouldn't respond to anybody. Everybody was like, hey, Faith, hi Faith, you know, like, and they told me this the next day. They were like, hey, we tried talking to you and you were just completely ignoring us. And we knew something was wrong, but we didn't put it together fast enough. And they're like, you weren't out here very long, and then you headed back to your room. Well, then the techs that were in the room, I guess were leaving the room, or something along the lines happened, and they saw me headed to bed, so they weren't as worried, because I had a fall risk bracelet on, just because of my episodes that I have. Typically, like I said, I know what's going on, so I'll sit on the floor, I'll lay on the floor, or I'll, you know, warn somebody that it's gonna happen, because I have these auras. I have this overwhelming feeling of something's going to happen. What it feels like is, it almost feels like all of the blood and all of the pressure just like runs down my body and out. And I literally feel like I'm losing everything. So I guess the techs were leaving the room is what they told me. And all of a sudden they hear this crack, like a bowling ball hitting the floor. Well, sadly, that was my head. I took a very nasty fall, and did not brace myself, because they found me like falling like all the way back, like just straight backwards. I was rushed to the ER from there. Luckily I had a concussion, but luckily nothing was broken or fractured or anything like that. I came out of the stupor, like the fog that I was in, the episode that I was in. They said I fell around shift change, which was typically like 7. I don't remember anything until about 9:30. It was a really, really long, and they said, obviously because I hit my head, that there's a lot of things that play in there, right? Once you hit your head that hard, and it feels like, it literally, nurses and techs told me they felt the floor from other rooms. Like, that's how hard I hit my head. And by the grace of God, I did not fracture my skull or anything like that. So that's what my body did when the stressful situations arised. So I was in the ER pretty much all that night until about 2 a.m. is when I remember going back up to the room. The nice thing about this particular place is that the hospital was literally just kind of like a walkway across. And so it wasn't hard to get me from point A to point B. Man, did I have a headache the next day when I woke up, and I was wondering what in the world was going on, because I remember being in the ER, but it's all kind of fuzzy. Obviously a concussion can do that to you, like kind of makes things like kind of jumbled. But I had like bruising along my neck from my neck straining as I hit the floor, because they believed that I was seizing like on the way down. I had bruising along like my shoulders and my back from hitting, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm still sore. Like, I still hurt. I still hurt. But thankfully I was okay. That though was the catapult to get me out of the hospital, because my body wasn't doing well with the surprises and the more intense interactions with others, I'm gonna say. I don't quite know how to put it properly, but the next day the doctors were like, okay, so we were gonna keep you another week. I was like, another week, right? Like cafeteria food. I'm not gonna lie, like I was more upset, I think, about the food than anything else, and not being able to go outside, because I love being outside. But they're like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and get you out of here today. And I was like, today? And they're like, yep, we're gonna do it. We're gonna, emergency do it and like get you out in a couple hours. And I was like, oh, okay, I get to leave today. It was a bittersweet like excitement, because I was like, I finally feel like I'm getting somewhere. And then they're just like, bye, see you later. So it was very bittersweet. But They gave me all my medications. They wrote me prescriptions for everything. They talked about this great IOP program, which I'm hoping to get into. Which is an intensive outpatient program. I probably should explain what IOP means. It's an intensive outpatient program, which will help with my care. Like, it'll be continuous care without having to be hospitalized or in the behavioral center. So catapulted my thing. My mom was supposed to come get me, but my husband decided that he was going to be the one to come get me. So he got off work and came and got me from the place that I was in. And then obviously day one video was my first day home, my first day, back kind of in the real world, because when you're in the behavioral center, when you're in the hospital, you're very isolated. So it really does feel like you're in another place, because you don't have all the stressors of, oh my gosh, is the laundry done? Are the dishes done? What do I have to do at work today? What do I have to? So it's very isolating. And it's good for some people and bad for some people. There are definitely good things, bad things, pros, cons of going into a facility like that. A little bit of, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit of PTSD kind of comes along with that sometimes, with all the things that happen in there. And I just gave you guys tonight just one example of one incident that happened while I was there. I can kind of, it's kind of giggly, it's kind of funny, but in reality, it's really sad and it's really scary, because these people are lost in their own minds. And I've felt it. I've been there in some capacity, but not to the capacity that they were experiencing it. And so while it is kind of, laugh about it after the fact, like, this is reality for a lot of people, and it's really scary. And a lot of people don't understand that it's even happening to them. And so while I do want to tell the stories, and let you guys know about the crazy stuff that happens, or that did happen, just remember, it's somebody's life. And while it, can make you giggle and make you kind of like see the humor in it, it's their life. They're living it. They're not doing it for laughs or for jokes. The last piece of tonight, I did want to talk about the Walker Hayes concert. I saw Parker McCollum last year, so he's in my brain for some reason today. But the Walker Hayes concert. So the reason I wanted to really collect my thoughts is because I really wanted to approach this subject appropriately, because I told you guys that it related so much to what I was going through. So Walker Hayes, for those of you that don't know, he's a country singer. He has rose to fame pretty quickly over the last couple of years, but he's been in the industry for a really long time. He is a family man. He has 6 kids. To my knowledge, again, you can Google and find out if I'm incorrect, but definitely a family man. And he has this song called Craig, is what the song's called. And I had never heard it before, of his, and I'm actually a fan of his. I actually really like his music. A lot of people know his song Fancy Like, or AA. A lot of people know those songs by him. And this song, Craig, I really had never heard. And he got up and introduced this song. He had been singing for a while. It was kind of probably the middle of his set. And he's like, hey, I'm gonna be real with you for a little bit. And then I'm gonna sing you a song. And everybody's kind of like, oh, okay, what's going on? Well, come to find out, Craig is this person. He wrote this song about his best friend, a guy who completely and considerably changed his life, and changed it for the better. And Walker Hayes he's an alcoholic. I believe he said at the concert, I think he's 8 years sober now, so it's really exciting. But he used to be an alcoholic, and he shared this story, this beautiful story of his best friend, his wife, his testimony. He's shared his testimony right there on stage in front of thousands of people, at the rodeo and took a leap of faith to share his story and not be afraid of potential backlash or potential comments or anything like that. He stood up there unafraid, unwavering in his faith, and decided to share his testimony with these thousands of people and sing this beautiful song about his best friend and about what really happened. And why it resonated with me is because I had just started doing this. I had just started vlogging and sharing my world with you, with everybody. I mean, this channel isn't private. Anybody can find it if they wanted to. And he did that with such a grace that I really related to him, and I'm really hoping that this channel is coming off that way as well, because I don't know how many people he helped that night. I don't know how many hundreds, maybe thousands of people he helped by sharing his testimony and telling people what he struggled through and the battles he was facing, right? But man, it was such a moving time and a moving place to just be there and be able to listen and be able to soak it all in amongst thousands of people. And I'm really hoping that this vlog helps someone. You know, he's preaching to the thousands, right? Like, he's telling his story to the thousands, and he's trying to help thousands of the people that are not only going through, you know, that are struggling with substance abuse or, you know, mental health issues. He's telling the thousands. I'm just hoping for one person. If this vlog helps one person, then I have done what I set out to do, because it not only helps me in expressing my feelings, I really wanted to help others and their struggles and their battles to be able to feel like they can come forward, they can confront these struggles, these demons that are gnawing at them and eating them away, and get the help that they need and ask somebody for help, because as someone like me who's a control freak, asking for help is the last thing I ever wanted to do. It's the last thing on my list, because that's incredibly hard for somebody who just wants to do it all, which is me. I can do it by myself. I don't need anybody's help. I got this. And to ask for help is really hard. So I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. Of course, I will update again tomorrow, but I love you all. I appreciate you following this and continuing my journey with me, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.